Growing up in the projects in New Rochelle, Jesse Arnelle had no idea one day his name would be on a plaque in City Hall. But Jesse had big dreams and a relentless work ethic. And sure enough, there's the plaque in the city's Sports Hall of Fame, celebrating one of New Rochelle's greatest athletes.
He took a ton of pride growing up in one of the first housing projects in New Rochelle, New York.
Jesse's son, Michael.
His mother and father is where he got his discipline from.
Jesse Arnelle's story is not just one of a successful athlete, he also became one of the most successful African-American attorneys in the country, a friend to presidents and national leaders who fought for civil rights and inclusion.
Those humble beginnings very much developed a foundation that made him the man he was.
Jesse's father had a hauling business. His mother cleaned houses. On the weekends, Jesse helped her.
He did help her, I know that, and he can clean a mean kitchen always.
Every morning before school, Jesse delivered newspapers. His wife Carolyn says it was not just a way to make money, it also opened his eyes to the world.
He read 4 newspapers a day, and he liked to keep up with events, and he understood the benefits of hard work and concentration, which he did.
And nowhere did his concentration and hard work demonstrate itself more than in sports. Jesse was a star on the New Rochelle High School basketball team. A natural leader, Jesse broke the school's scoring record with 52 points in one game and took the team to championships.
He loved basketball. He'd learned how to play it really well in high school and in the neighborhood, and so he had good success with it.
Sports kind of helped him establish an identity initially, and then blossom from there.
Jesse also excelled as a wide receiver on the football field and led his team into the playoffs. Not satisfied just as a two-sports guy, Jesse also ran track. His relay team won the Penn Relays and were the most successful relay team in the history of the school. But while he excelled in sports, sometimes Jesse let his studies slide. One day, his Spanish teacher, Beatrice Shine, who was handicapped, asked him a question. Jesse didn't know the answer.
He remembers it well. He remembers his feeling embarrassed by his lack of preparation.
The teacher took him out of class and told him he could master any subject, just like he mastered those silly games he played, and she offered to help.
He talks about that as a turning point in really focusing more on academics, because before that he'd been okay with academics, but really more involved in sports. And the combination of the two activities really gave him opportunities.
Jesse took advantage of those opportunities. He ran for school president and won. Sports combined with good grades, and Jesse was going places. He got a football scholarship to Ivy League Brown University. One of the coaches who recruited him was the legendary Joe Paterno. But in Jesse's senior year in high school, Paterno moved to Penn State and invited Jesse to join him.
He decided he really wanted to work with them, so he took the scholarship at Penn State rather than the one at Brown.
The rest, as they say, is history. At Penn State, he played alongside Rosie Greer, later one of the big names in pro football. The two were among the few minorities at Penn State at the time.
He was roommate with Rosie Greer. It had a very low minority population when he started there. My sense of it, the way he talked about it, it was still a fairly new event, but it was happening around athletics.
Penn's basketball coach wouldn't be denied the 6 feet 5 inches of Jesse's talents either. As a star forward, Jesse led the basketball team to new heights and was named an All-American. He took the team to the Final Four of the NCAA championships, something that's never happened before.
That was an exciting year for them, and really quite an achievement.
Jesse's scoring record at Penn State would stand for 56 years, sinking more than 2,138 points.
I think he liked the fact that his scoring record lasted as long as it did. His comment was that, and that was before there were three-pointers.
Not content with just making an impact in sports, Jesse, as he had at New Rochelle High School, ran for student body president at Penn State.
The question is whether or not it could happen in that situation, because the minority percentage of the student body was, I think, around 1 or 3%.
Jesse won with 75% of the vote.
They just loved him. He was the first black student government president in a major university, I think, in the country.
Remember, this was back in 1954. It was just that year that the Supreme Court banned school segregation. In his senior year, Jesse got offers to go pro. He was drafted by the LA Rams in the NFL and offered a slot on the Detroit Pistons in the NBA, but he turned both down to do something different. That summer, Jesse played basketball with the Harlem Globetrotters.
He played more of the straight guy in the team than doing the fancy tricks. They traveled through the Middle East and Europe, and he had always wanted to travel.
When he came back, he took that NBA offer with the Pistons. He was the only African American on the team, and there were some disappointments with his white teammates.
He was injured at one point, but he was in the hospital for several days. Nobody came to visit him from the team, and he just thought, there's not a connection there.
Also, while traveling in the South, he couldn't stay with his white teammates in the same hotel because of segregation. But Jesse had other things in mind for his future. He quit the NBA team and joined the Air Force to become a pilot.
And then when he got there, they said, "Oh no, you're too tall to fly because the cockpits are so small." So he couldn't.
The Air Force was followed by law school and then a job in Washington, D.C. That's where he met Sergeant Shriver, who was married to John Kennedy's sister. Shriver recruited him for the Peace Corps.
That was just a powerful experience for him.
Back in Washington, he got closer to the Kennedy family, even played football with them. During one of those games, Jesse had another turning point while playing against Bobby Kennedy's team. That year, Kennedy was running for president.
Prior to the game, somebody advised him, hey, we know you're the athlete here. Take it easy on Bob. My dad said, okay.
In one play, Jesse got the ball. Bobby tried to stop him.
He said he knocked him on his butt. And everybody initially was like, what are you doing? That moment, Bob was like, who is that guy? I like him. I need him on my campaign. And if he's going to fight like that for what he believes in, he's going to fight for us too. So that ended up leading to him being a key part of that campaign.
As part of Bobby Kennedy's presidential campaign, Jesse teamed up with his old Penn State roommate, Rosie Greer. Jesse was sent to California as an advance man, and Rosie traveled with Bobby, acting as both a bodyguard and celebrity supporter. Then, in April 1968, one of Jesse's heroes, Martin Luther King Jr., was assassinated.
Dr. Martin Luther King, the apostle of nonviolence in the civil rights movement, has been shot to death in Memphis, Tennessee.
King's death hit him hard. 1 month later, Penn State asked Jesse to come back to receive the Distinguished Alumni Award. Jesse had a speech in his pocket. When he got to the podium, he surprised and shocked the audience. The speech was called, "I love this Penn State, but my freedom is dearer to me."
He knew it was going to be risky because he didn't know how people were going to react to a black man telling them that they weren't doing right.
What they weren't doing right, Jesse told the audience, was recruiting more minority students and faculty. He then refused to accept the award.
He felt it was an opportunity to say something to, as they say, truth to power, and he used it that way.
And then, 1 month later, June 1968, Jesse was back in Los Angeles working on the Kennedy campaign when tragedy struck again.
Senator Kennedy has been shot. Is that possible? Get the gun. Get the gun.
His Penn State teammate, Rosie Greer, was at Kennedy's side and tackled the gunman, Sirhan Sirhan. A tragic loss for both men and the country.
When you lose Martin, you lose Bob. I imagine that even though it was difficult initially, it fueled the fire for him to continue fighting for what's right.
And fight, he did. A year after his Penn State speech, Jesse was put on the board of trustees of Penn State and helped increase minority recruitment. He'd stay on the board for 45 years. Having settled in California, Jesse went to work for the Federal Public Defender's Office. That's when he met his wife, Carolyn. She worked with inmates on their cases.
When I finally met him, it was in the city jail because that's where his client was, and I went to see the client there. So we like to kid about that. We met in jail.
The two were married and had a son, Michael.
He definitely saw the effectiveness of taking the quiet route and working from the inside. He would take cases and defend people that couldn't afford top-notch lawyers.
Eventually, he went into private practice, later merging with another African-American attorney, Bill Hasty, setting up one of the first black-owned corporate law firms in the country. The two made the cover of Black Enterprise magazine. In 2020, at the height of COVID, Jesse passed away from heart failure.
A lot of the things my parents taught me made sense the more I got older, and the disciplined approach, I just miss them, man. I would be who I am without my parents.
Jesse Arnelle never forgot his roots in New Rochelle. His family has now established a scholarship in his name, but it's meant to celebrate teachers like Beatrice Shine from New Rochelle High School, who changed his life.
He never put a ceiling on what he could accomplish. After he passed, I learned a lot about other people who are from New Rochelle. And it sounds like that's a common trait that New Rochellians share. To all the children in New Rochelle, I think my father's life should be an example that you can make it too.